Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so I hope the screen is visible.
Matri, the screen is not visible.
Second.
Okay, now visible, Matri.
Okay, I'll read till then. Bhagavad Gita is also known as Gita Upanishad. It is the essence of Vedic knowledge and one of the most important Upanishads in Vedic literature. Of course, there are many commentaries in English on the Bhagavad Gita, and one may question the necessity for another one. This present edition can be explained in the following way. Recently, an American lady asked me to recommend an English translation of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, in America, there are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita available in English. But as far as I have seen, not only in America but also in India, none of them can be strictly said to be authoritative because in almost every one of them, the commentator has expressed his own opinions without touching the spirit of Bhagavad Gita as it is. The spirit of Bhagavad Gita is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita itself. It is just like this. If you want to take a particular medicine, then we have to follow the directions written on the label. We cannot take the medicine according to our own mind or the direction of a friend. It must be taken according to the label or the directions of a physician. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita should be taken or accepted as it is directed by the speaker himself. The speaker of the Bhagavad Gita is Lord Krishna. He mentioned on every page of Bhagavad Gita as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. Of course, the word Bhagwan sometimes refer to any powerful person or any powerful demigod, and certainly here Bhagwan designates Lord Shri Krishna as a great personality. But at the same time, we should know that Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as is confirmed by all the great acharyas like Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka Swami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and many other authorities of Vedic knowledge in India. The Lord Himself also establishes Himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Bhagavad Gita, and He is accepted as such in Brahma Samhita and all the Puranas, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, known as Bhagavad Puran, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Therefore, we should take Bhagavad Gita as it is, directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord says,
Here the Lord informs Arjuna that the system of yoga, the Bhagavad Gita, was first spoken to the sun god, and the sun god explained it to Manu, and Manu explained it to Ikshvaku, and in that way, by disciplic succession, one speaker after another, this yoga system has been coming down. But in the course of time, it has become lost. Consequently, the Lord has to speak it again, this time to Arjun on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He tells Arjun that he is relating this supreme secret to him because Arjun is his devotee and his friend. The purport of this is that Bhagavad Gita is a treatise which is specially meant for devotee of the Lord. There are three classes of transcendentalists, namely the Jnanis, the Yogis, and the Bhakta, or the impersonalist, the meditator, and the devotee. Here, the Lord clearly tells Arjun that he is making him the first receiver of a new parampara, disciplic succession, because the old succession was broken. It was the Lord's wish, therefore, to establish another parampara in the same line of thought that was coming down from the sun god to others, and it was his wish that his teachings be distributed anew by Arjuna. He wanted Arjun to become the authority in understanding the Bhagavad Gita. So we see that Bhagavad Gita is instructed to Arjun, especially because Arjun was a devotee of the Lord, a direct student of Krishna, and his intimate friend. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is best understood by a person who has qualities similar to Arjun's. That is to say, he must be a devotee in a direct relationship with the Lord. As soon as one becomes a devotee of Lord, he also has direct relationship with the Lord. That is a very elaborate subject matter, but briefly, it can be stated that a devotee is in a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of the five different ways. First, one may be a devotee in a passive state, one may be a devotee in active state, one may be a devotee as a friend, one may be a devotee as a parent, one may be a devotee as a conjugal lover.
Arjun was in a relationship with the Lord as friend. Of course, there is a gulf of different between the friendship and the friendship different between this friendship and the friendship found in the material world. This is a transcendental friendship which cannot be had by everyone. Of course, everyone has a particular relationship with the Lord, and the relationship is evoked by the perfection of devotional services. But in the present status of our life, not only have we forgotten the Supreme Lord, but we have forgotten our internal relationship with the Lord. Every living being out of many billions and trillions of living beings has a particular relationship with the Lord eternally. This is called Swarupa. By the process of devotional services, one can revive the soul to a right state of which is called Siddhi, perfection of one constitutional position. So Arjun was a devotee and he was in touch with the Supreme Lord in friendship. How Arjun accepted this Bhagavad Gita should be noted. This manner of acceptance is given in the text. So Arjun said, "You are the supreme personality of Godhead, the ultimate, the purest, and the absolute the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest, all the great sages such as Narad, Ashist, Asita, Devala, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it to me. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. After
After
hearing
reading, okay. After reading Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality
Mataji,
of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Parabrahma, the Supreme Brahma. Every living being is Brahma, but the Supreme Living Being or the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Brahma. Param Dhama means that he is the supreme rest or abode of everything. Pavitra means that he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is the supreme enjoyer. Shashvatam, eternal. Divyam, transcendental. Adi Devam, the original supreme personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn. And Vibhum, the greatest. Now one may think that because Krishna was a friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of the Bhagavad Gita, sustain, sustains these phrases in the next verse that he says, um, when he says, sorry, when he says that Krishna is accepted as the supreme personality of Godhead, not only by himself but by the authorities like Narad, Asita, Deval, and Vyasdeva. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by all acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. Swarvam etam ritam manye. I accept everything as you say to. say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of Godhead is very difficult to understand, and that he cannot be known by even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot be even known by the personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Lord Sri Krishna without becoming his devotee?
Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an unordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So, according to the statement of Bhagavad Gita or the statement of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita, we should at least theoretical accept Sri Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, and with that submissing spirit we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it is a great mystery. Just what is the Bhagavad Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nonsense of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna also was in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrender unto Sri Krishna, and consequently this Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna but everyone of us is full of anxieties because of his this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-exist non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be treated by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into asat. Asat refer to that which does not exist.
Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jigyasa, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question why they are suffering or where they came from and where they shall go after death are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. Lord Krishna descends specifically to re-establish the real purpose of life. When man forgets that purpose, even then, out of many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position, and for him this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all swallowed by the tigress of nescience, but the Lord is very merciful upon the living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student.
Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjun was above all ignorance, but Arjun was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. The man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. The subject of Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of five basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of living entities, jivas. There is Ishvara, which means the controller, and there are jivas, the living entities which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but that says he is not controlled, but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, so the supreme controller, and the Jivas, the controlled living entities, Prakriti, material nature, and the time, the duration of existence of the whole universe or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, the activity, are also discussed. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn that God is what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of living entities are.
Out of these five basic subjects matter in Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Godhead or Krishna or Brahman or the Supreme Controller or Param Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like. It is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like a supreme controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs of natural material nature, as will be explained in the later chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent, she is acting under the direction of Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Maya uh, Mayadh Yak Yaksena Prakartik Suyate Sha Kara Karam. This material nature is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish, not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it. But a sane man knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the driver under whose direction everything is working. Now the jivas or the living entities have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in note in the later chapters, as this part and parcels. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty, and similarly we, the uh, living entities being part and parcel of the supreme controller Ishwar or Ishwar, Ishwaras, subordinated Ishwaras. We are trying to control nature, as presently we are trying to control space or planets, and this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita.
What is material nature? This is also explained in the Gita as inferior Prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior Prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the seventh chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Aparyam itastva anyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam. This material nature is my inferior prakriti, but beyond this is another prakriti, jiva bhutam, the living entities. Material nature itself is constituted by three material qualities: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes there is eternal time, and by combination of these modes of nature under the control of the purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and I have worked very hard with intelligence and have amazed with a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then I say I have lost all my money in business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work, or we suffer the results. This is called karma.
Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, Jiva, the living entity, Prakriti, nature, Kala, Kala, eternal time, and Karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, material nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false, but according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real but temporary. It is linked unto a cloud which move across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season, which nourishes grains. As soon as the rainy season is over, and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which were nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation take place at a certain interval, stay for a while, and then disappears. Such are the working of Prakriti, but this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord reference to this my Prakriti. This material nature is the separate energy of the Supreme Lord, and similarly, the living entity are also the energy of the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord, although they are not separate but eternally related. So, the Lord, the living entity, material nature, and time are all in interrelated and are all eternal. However, the others item karma is not eternal. The effect of karma may be very old. Indeed, we are suffering or enjoying the result of our activities from the immemorial, uh, immemorial, but we can change the result of our karma or our activity, and this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the action and reaction of all these activities. But this is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. The position of Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, is that of supreme consciousness, the Jiva. Jivas, or the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, are also conscious. Both the living entity and material nature are explained as a Prakriti, the energy of the Supreme Lord, but one of the two, the Jiva, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious. That is the difference. Therefore, the Jiva Prakriti is called superior, because the Jiva has consciousness which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord's is a supreme consciousness. However, and one should not claim that the Jiva, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection, and the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly our supremely conscious.
The distinction between the Jiva and the Ishwar will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kshetrajna, conscious as is the living entity, but the living entity is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies, because he lives in the heart of every living being. He is conscious of psychic movements of the particular jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained in the it is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as the controller, and that he is giving directions for the living entity to act as he desires. The Lord, the living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determination to act in a certain way. Then he gets entangled in the actions and reactions of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters into another type of body. As we take off and put on clothes, as the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. These activities can be changed when the living entity is in the mood of goodness, insanity, and understand what sort of activities he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore, we stated that the five items, Ishvara, Jeev, Prakriti, time, and karma, four are eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. Okay, so we'll continue from here tomorrow. और हम कल इसका एक short summary भी समझ लेंगे. But before ending, we'll hear one lecture of Srila Prabhupada.
So, I am very glad to see you, so many Krishna's part and parcel. You have come to understand Krishna consciousness. So stick to the principles, then your life will be successful. The principle is to purify ourselves. Just like when a man becomes sick, he has to purify himself by regulated principle, by diet, by medicine. Similarly, we have got this material disease covered by the material body. And the symptom of miseries are birth, death, old age and disease. So one who is serious about getting out of this material bondage and free from birth, death, old age and disease, so he must take to this Krishna consciousness. It is very simple and easy. If you do not know, if you are not educated, if you have no faith, you can simply chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And if you are educated, logician, philosopher, you can read our books, which are already in 15 number. There will be about 75 books of 400 pages to convince the philosopher, scientist, educationist what is Krishna consciousness. It is published in English as well as in other European languages. Take advantage of it. Along with the deity worship in this temple, hold classes, at least 5 hours. As in the schools and colleges, there are regular classes, 45 minutes class, then 5 or 10 minutes recess, again 45 minutes class in this way. So, we have got enough subject matter to study, and if we study all these books, to finish them it will take at least 25 years. So you are all young men, I request you to engage your time in reading books, in chanting, in deity worshipping, and going to preach, selling books. Don't be lazy, always remain engaged. Then that is Krishna consciousness. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mang hi patha vapasritya jepishu papajunaya sriya vaishya satha shuddha stepi janti parangati. There is no discrimination that this man should be allowed, this woman should not be allowed. No. Krishna says, anyone, sriya vaishya tatha shuddha. Anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness he becomes free from the material bondage and goes back to Godhead, back to home. So take seriously about this movement and execute the principle, namely no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and chant 16 rounds. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
हरे कृष्णा. ओके, सो थैंक यू सो मच माधुरी, आप लोग एक्सेप्ट किए बुक रीडिंग सेशन के लिए. एवरी डे वी कैन हियर श्रील प्रभुपाद बिफोर स्लीपिंग एंड आल्सो हिज चैंटिंग ऑफ हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र. ओके, तो आप सभी लोगों के पास में हार्ड कॉपी होगी भगवद गीता की, तो हम जितने पेजेस रीड कर लेंगे मैंने अपनी हार्ड कॉपी में उसको हाईलाइट किया है कुछ पॉइंट्स को, तो आप एक बार खुद से भी अपनी पर्सनल भगवद गीता रीड करके उसमें कुछ पॉइंट्स हाईलाइट कर सकते हैं, तो आपको फ्यूचर में हेल्प मिलेगी. क्योंकि हम अगर घर जाके वापस रिवाइज नहीं करेंगे तो हम भूल जाएंगे हम क्या पढ़ रहे हैं भगवद गीता में. ओके, सो वी विल एंड इट हियर. वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. आप सभी लोग अपना साधना कार्ड भी फिल कर लीजिएगा. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.